There is a fence in Australia so long that if you started walking it, you could walk for months without stopping. It runs through 3 states, it's patrolled like a national border, and it exists for one reason: to keep a wild dog off farmland. It's often described as longer than the Great Wall of China, and without meaning to, it split an entire continent's ecosystem in two. The dingo is Australia's wild dog, and to sheep farmers in the 19th century, it was a disaster. Dingoes kill sheep efficiently and in numbers, and as European settlers pushed sheep grazing across the interior, farmers built local fences to keep dingoes off their land. Hundreds of separate disconnected barriers built by individual landholders and districts. Starting in the 1880s, decades later, those scattered fences were consolidated. In 1946, state governments merged the patchwork of local barriers into one continuous structure, what's now called the Dingo Fence, or the Dog Fence. Today it runs roughly 5,600 kilometres through Queensland, New South Wales and South Australia, from the Queensland coast down to the Great Australian Bight. The exact figure varies by source and by the reroutings that maintenance keeps making. The fence isn't there to protect all of Australia's livestock. It's there because sheep and cattle have very different relationships with dingoes. Sheep are small, vulnerable, and farmed in dense flocks. Dingoes can devastate a flock in a single night. Cattle are large enough that adult dingoes generally aren't a serious threat to them. So the fence draws a rough line between the sheep country of the southeast, where dingoes are excluded, and the cattle and rangeland country to the north and west, where dingoes are tolerated, and in places actively left alone as a natural check on other pests like kangaroos and rabbits. Maintaining it is its own logistical operation. Boundary riders, today often using vehicles and aircraft rather than horses, patrol assigned sections, repairing storm damage, fallen trees, and the animals that regularly try to dig under or push through. What nobody planned for was what the fence would do to the land itself. Because it's been in roughly the same place for so long, ecologists got something rare. A real-world experiment at continental scale with a hard line down the middle. On the dingo-excluded side, kangaroo populations tend to boom without their main natural predator, and heavier grazing pressure changes which plants dominate. On the dingo-present side, predation keeps kangaroo and smaller pest numbers more in check, and vegetation patterns differ measurably. The exact numbers vary between studies. The pattern itself is well documented. Scientists have used satellite imagery of the fence line for exactly this reason. From orbit, you can sometimes see where the vegetation itself changes right at the fence. One wild dog's absence, rewriting the landscape on either side of a boundary built for sheep. The dingo fence was never meant to be a scientific instrument. It was meant to keep a predator away from livestock, built section by farmers who never imagined it would someday be visible as a line across an entire continent's ecosystem. Sometimes the most consequential borders aren't drawn by treaties or wars. They're drawn by sheep.